Why don't you run down your top 5 list right now?
Oh, you're making me go first. Deal. All right, here we go. I am actually taking the hot route and going with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels first. I'm going Jaden Daniels 1, Caleb Williams 2, Drake May 3. I think it's the top 3 is very clear, and I've told you the entire time. I think it's razor thin between all 3 of them. I think you could make a justification for taking any of the 3 first if you're the Bears. Then I've got Michael Penix at 4 and Bo Nix at 5. I know J.J. McCarthy's the hot name, but this is kind of loosely – honestly, this has kind of been my top 5 through the entire process here. And I think the hardest debate, yes, is between 1 and 2 at the top. But I love Jaden Daniels' game. Best player in college football in 2023. At any position, no question. Most consistent passer, best runner by far. I'm going to be honest, Max, I was digging into even some of the running numbers. The decade that we've been doing PFF College, there's 2 guys that stand above everybody else running. It's Jaden Daniels and it's Lamar Jackson, and then it's everybody else. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's first with the base and just the athleticism and the danger. He is honestly, I was messing around too with our elusiveness equation. He's honestly as hard to tackle as Bijan Robinson as a quarterback. It's crazy. He might be the best runner in the NFL right now. Then you go to the passing, and then just the substantial improvement this year. Look, I see all these stats now that go out about, his entire career and pressure to sack and this and that and the other thing. The more, and I even went back and watched the Arizona State stuff. The more I watch that and the more I look at that Arizona State situation, everything that went down there, that's all irrelevant to me. I don't care. I really only care about all these guys. Because I don't care about Bo Nix at Auburn, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really care about Penix at Indiana other than the injury stuff, but the medicals seem to check out. I think the last 2 years is the most fair way to evaluate these guys. And the top 3, especially over the last 2 years, I think are just about as even as it gets, especially when you account for Daniels running. And Daniels 2023, again, he was the best player in college football. When you go back and look at the turmoil at Arizona State, and you look at LSU, this year at LSU was really the first time that he had 2 years in a row that was really just a stable situation where there was nothing going on. You go back to 2019, really good freshman year, won 8 games, solid stuff. 2020, they only played 4 games because of COVID. 2021, there was a cloud over Arizona State. They had coaches getting suspended. They had all sorts of stuff with recruiting violations. They still managed to win 8 games. And then he leaves Arizona State, and they just fall apart completely. And then it's back to square one at LSU. This was the first time for a second year in a row he had a stable situation, and all of a sudden he was the best player in college football. I think Williams is incredible. I do think he's a wild horse. Okay, I think there's development that does need to happen there. If you coach him wrong, there's still ball security issues at times late in plays, right? Jaden Daniels has the best turnover-worthy play rate of any Power 5 quarterback that we've charted. Okay, I think there is a level of safe. I don't see a whole lot of bust with Jaden Daniels. And I get that Caleb's going to go first, but I really honestly believe he's Lamar Jackson with an even smoother throwing motion. I really do.
So you just said you think he's the best runner in the NFL right when do you think he's better than Lamar Jackson as a runner is what you're saying or no?
I think that's the only argument we could have is between him and Lamar. And if you look at the college numbers, those 2 guys stand above everybody else over the last decade when it comes to running the football. I think he could. It's those 2. Those 2 guys stand above everybody else.
Wow. I didn't know you were actually going to put Jay at number 1, man. That's pretty surprising. But all right, I'll go with my top 5 list right now, so we'll get into it more. At number 1, I got Caleb Williams, the USC quarterback. 2, Drake May, North Carolina. 3, I have Jaden Daniels from LSU. 4, J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. 5, Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. And my sleeper I wanted to shout out was Michael Pratt from Tulane. So I obviously still have Caleb Williams number 1 and Drake May number 2. To me, it's more because we've seen nothing but elite play from them. I mean, even elite play from Caleb Williams back when he was in high school. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, lived up to the hype immediately at Oklahoma as a true freshman, won the Heisman Trophy as a true sophomore, was still elite this past season. I still think, man, with his arm talent, with everything he accounts for in terms of his creativity, he's still pretty clearly the number 1 option for me. And I think over the last decade, I'd probably say Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, and then Caleb Williams like right underneath that, with maybe Joe Burrow in that same tier with Caleb Williams. I think he's special, man. I think he's still pretty clearly, for me, the number one option in this draft. And yeah, again, like I said, and also like I think something to keep in count. I think he was playing a lot of hero ball this past year for USC because he had to, because the defense was that bad, and also the offense. Yeah, they had some nice pieces, but I mean, it wasn't nearly as talented as say the offense that Jaden Daniels had at LSU, where he had 2 first-round receivers in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., 2 potential first-round tackles in next year's draft in Will Campbell and Emory Jones. Like, Caleb Williams is kind of on an island for a lot of last year, but I still think he's pretty clearly the top guy. I love Drake May as well. I mean, even more on an island than Caleb Williams was. He was by himself, basically, on that North Carolina team. He still has been elite for 2 years. So it's kind of really the age. I know, age for quarterbacks, we've seen Joe Burrow prove that doesn't really matter as much, but it matters for me when Jaden Daniels kind of took some time and really had this 1 year of elite production, whereas Caleb and Drake had 2+ years of elite production immediately. Like, we've seen nothing but elite production from them. So that's why I like them more. And also I think the arm talent from them is better than Jaden Daniels, who I think could, struggle with velocity sometimes as well. But I like Jaden Daniels a lot. Obviously, he's still number 3 for me. I like JJ McCarthy too as a developmental option at 4. Scared to start him right away. I'm scared of the top 5 hype, even number 2 overall hype that we're getting from him right now. But I still think he's got a good chance to be a starter in the league. And then I got Michael Penix Jr. rounding out my top 5, who I still think has the arm talent to become a starter in the NFL, and Bo Nix would be a close 6 for me as well. But all right, so I got Caleb Williams number 1. You have Jaden Daniels number 1. What about your sleeper, Dalton? What about Jordan Travis? What's kind of your case for him as your sleeper?
Honestly, minus the injury, I think he would easily be QB7 in this draft. And to be honest, when I went back and looked at the tape and he says, I think he was talking about it might be good by June or July to start practicing. I actually think he's clearly, when I look at the rest of the quarterbacks past the top 6, I don't think there's any question that Jordan Travis is the best, most consistent football player. I know Rattler's got talent. I know your guy Michael Pratt has talent, but Jordan Travis is extremely athletic, is not loose with the football at all. I'll admit his accuracy is spotty at times. Sometimes it can even be random. He does have a funky kind of like baseball-ish throwing motion, but his athleticism, his fearlessness, and just his he's just got guts, man, when he plays football. Like, I think people forget. They had Keon Coleman and Trey Benson and Johnny Wilson and all this, but when push came to shove, anytime Florida State got in a tough situation, it was Jordan Travis creating. And he was also, I believe he's the highest graded passer over the last couple years in this draft, throwing into tight windows. So it's just the combination of athletic and fearless. I think if you asked anyone during the season last year, take all these guys on this list beyond these top 6, okay? Travis, Rattler, Pratt, Talia, Carter, Bradley, whoever else is getting thrown in this late round conversation, you go, who's the best football player? And I think 100 out of 100 people would tell you Jordan Travis. I think the injury is the only thing giving people pause right now. But for me, I think he's pretty solidly QB7 in this draft. I would take him on his traits. They have to clean up his footwork and throwing motion and make things move a little bit faster. But I think he's just clearly a step above the rest of the day 2 and 3 guys.
Okay, so you take him above guys like Spencer Rattler even too then?
I think Rattler's the only one in that same conversation, and then it's everybody else. But I would take Travis over Rattler based on what we've seen the last 2 and 3 years out of Jordan Travis.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I like Jordan Travis a lot. He actually would have been my sleeper if you didn't take him. But I'll go with Michael Pratt here too. I think kind of the opposite in Jordan Travis, where Travis kind of has that weird delivery sometimes, where it looks like he's almost like a pitcher on a baseball diamond in the way he follows through. Pratt doesn't really have that issue, man. He's got really good fundamentals. Again, like Travis, doesn't have a great arm, but he's got really good touch passes down the field. I think Michael Pratt got some Baker Mayfield a little bit in him when I was watching him. I think he's a guy that could potentially become a starter down the line. I wouldn't bank on it, but if you're asking me, if you're looking at the guys outside of, I don't think Spencer Rattler would constitute a sleeper because, again, he's a consensus top 100 prospect, so we didn't count him in this. But if you're looking for guys outside the top 100 that could become a starter down the line or start some games for you down the line, I would probably say Michael Pratt is probably the guy that I would go with most over guys like Jordan Travis and stuff like that. I do think it's close between the two of them, though. But I like Michael Pratt as a developmental option, as a guy maybe you take in the 3rd or 4th round and see what you got in him. So